Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And this is going to be such a great conversation today that we're having with Brandy Gilmore. And Brandy's going to join us in just a second. We're in a little of Mercury retrograde, so she was having a little bit of a computer issue and a reset with Zoom, which so many of us are having. But today's conversation I find really timely. The energetics that are going to be shared really amplifying. And what we're doing is we're really stirring up the dust with so much, I'll call personal development work that we've done, and where we have gotten to the place where there's a different awareness and different spectrums of our life that are wanting the integration to occur now. So you've done a lot of your self-help work. You've done a lot of your connection. And it's time now to integrate the different aspects of our lives and to that alignment, into that vibrational state of the abundance that's really waiting for us. If we know how to tap into it, and if we can understand what it is that is stifling that energy. And Brandy, Brandy, if you want to unmute yourself, it's fantastic. Brandy is just such an amazing facilitator and expert. I worked with Brandy for a long time, and what she opened up within me and my own awareness of where I was subconsciously blocking myself, or my mind, body, and energy were perhaps putting on the brakes on something that wanted to move forward. It's a big time for, I won't call it the transformation that's waiting for you. I'll call it for you to cross that threshold, that door that's available to you now. And Brandy definitely provides the facilitation into that. And a big one for all of us, it's money. So today we're talking about soulful money, prosperity, and success. And y'all know, y'all have been doing enough of your work that you understand that money is also a reflection of other areas of your life. But again, there's so much judgment and shame and what is a lot, and are we lacking financially? Sometimes are we in fear of it and accepting of it? Sometimes do we not know how to receive? Do we receive in siphons? And so we're going to go through all this and so much more on today's call. And if y'all aren't familiar with Brandy, again, I've worked with Brandy personally. She really helped me to shift in ways that were not conscious to me, that were available to me. And again, bringing that intelligence into an embodied state created changes and ripple effects in my life in so many ways. So Brandy's most well known for her discoveries in self-healing and working with the power of the mind. And not only is Brandy able to heal herself from a wheelchair, walker, and cane, she's also able to do something that has never been done before. She's able to coach people to use their minds to get back-to-back healing results, even under alternative medical equipment, using only the power of the mind. So her breakthrough work has been featured in award-winning documentary, in various docuseries. And Brandy speaks on stages around the world and has also given a mind-expanding TEDx talk that y'all should look up later. And she's got all these views on it that are a testament really to the work that she does. Brandy has a genuine heart. She's got more than a genuine heart. She's got a heart of gold. And her desire really to be of service to other people, you'll feel it in her tone, you'll feel it in her voice. And again, I'm just so thankful and feel so blessed, Brandy, that you're joining us today. Thank you.
And I feel so blessed to be here, and it's great to see your beautiful face. Look at you. You look gorgeous. Happy, wonderful day.
Lighting is everything.
Well, you have to remember, I have seen you in person. You're gorgeous in person too, without the lighting.
Thank you.
And apparently I forgot I'm in San Francisco today. I was working from Mars the other day. So San Francisco, here we are today.
You're definitely multidimensional and more and y'all are going to experience that. So Brandy, you work with people on health issues, money issues, really leveling up and attuning to what's available to them. Why the conversation around money now? Why soulful money, prosperity, and success?
Honestly, so many reasons. I think the most obvious for people is that obviously, going through this time with COVID, and a lot of people are stressed about the economy and what's going to happen and all that uncertainty and fear. And, so there's just so many angles, because some people it's well known when there's a lot of uncertainty and fear that more people can get sick during those times, and not just, I'm not talking about COVID, but just in general. So there's that. Not only that, but I mean, another reason is that when we're stressed about money and finances, it's hard to lift our energy, lift into the next level of consciousness when there's that negative energy and stress. So that's another one. And another one is just, for me personally, when I was going through my injury and getting better and all of that, to go from wheelchair, walker, cane, and work on healing myself and finally get there and then go, okay, now I need to figure out my finances. That was a part that I needed to figure out. And when I did that, it really, I mean, it was huge for me. But when I got better was actually 2009 was when I started stepping back into like, oh my God, I'm feeling better, 2010. And if you remember, that was when we were coming out of the 2008 Great Recession. So even 2009, huge unemployment rate, all of that. And I just had this mindset that said, I'm going to succeed. And I started working on my blocks with money and my mindset with money. And it radically changed my life. I mean, I went from living and being on disability and stressing to even I couldn't pay my house payment and my bills for many years being on disability. I went from a network engineering income to a disability income, and my bills didn't like that change. And so, I mean, I had a lot of financial stress. And so when I got better, like there was a lot of fear around that I was like, this is not going to stop me from living my life. And so in changing that, I literally went from being on disability to the first year I was off disability, I made 6 figures. The next year after that, I made 6 figures by like February. And it just radically changed my life. And I feel like the more you feel safe and secure financially in life, the easier it is to keep growing and keep expanding your mind, your energy, and just do the things you want to do, and your health.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
wonderful.
just so many reasons.
Yeah, that's wonderful. For all of y'all on the call that are joining us, and we have a small group today right now, so y'all may want to take advantage and ask Brandy your personal question while you can. We will take Q&A. You can also raise your hand as well on the Zoom call. And for those of y'all who may not be familiar, just click on the participants little icon at the bottom of the screen, and it'll show you where you can raise your hand, and we'll try to go through some live questions during the call. Brandy, what was fascinating to me, what was so timely, was today was my last day to pay my corporation taxes on September the 15th, because I filed extensions at all these things, and I was on the phone call with my CPA, and he initiated the calls. He was pushing everything, because it was up to me. I'd wait till 10 years from now to do it, because it's not something that I typically like to look at. I'd rather avoid it, and that's something that I want to pay attention to. And everything's aligned, and there's money to pay and all that, but it's just I have a resistance to it. And I noticed when I was on the call with the CPA, how I was kind of holding my breath when he was reviewing things. And then there was also this feeling where, like with the IRS, like, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing it right? It's like this like guilt or feeling like I'm not doing something in accordance to the way it's supposed to be done. And am I going to get in trouble for it? Or am I hiding something? And it's so fascinating how we've set up our mindset, at least I have, and I know some of y'all can probably relate, in a way that really doesn't take into account, when situations like this come up, the abundance that we have, as opposed to getting into the lack because now we have to give something back.
Absolutely. And when those emotions come up, a lot of people, they have a lot of stress towards abundance. What's interesting, even when taxes, this is what's fascinating. Like, I've worked with people who have blocks with money on all different levels. And when we even clear things like money, like blocks with taxes and stuff like that, it actually helps elevate what we're willing to make even more. Like, just different blocks. But that's exactly it. It was like when we notice, sometimes it's that conscious where we feel it. I know you're super in tune with your energy and what's going on. A lot of times the things are subconscious, and it's like these blocks. And that's what it's all about, is that, with money, because it's such a sensitive topic for a lot of people, whether they deserve it or they're going to feel like people might be jealous, or they have anger about money or hurt with money, or there's so many different feelings and emotions and insecurities with money that a lot of times, even more than things like health, people will have so many links and subconscious blocks towards money that they'll work on it. I've worked with people who were working on money for 20 years and still hadn't made it that far until they started getting their specific blocks that they need to and shifting those. But it's exactly it, is noticing and identifying those things and really creating radical shifts around them.
Yeah. So how do we create the shifts around perhaps, again, so many of us, and I've certainly experienced this at different moments in my life, where there's the lack of that security in finances. Like there's no trust that's going to be there, that you could be doing great one day and then it's gone the next, or there's not going to be enough.
Totally. You know, one thing I like to really look at is the awareness that there were more millionaires created during the Great Depression than any other time in history.
Hmm.
And when you stop and think about that, that there were more millionaires created during the Great Depression than any other time in history, and also, if you think about it, even during the best of economies, there's been people who have lost money or filed bankruptcy or went broke and all of that. And so when you really take into account that you're the creator of your own life, you don't have to say, well, it's a great economy, it's going to work. Oh, it's not a great economy, it's not going to work. You know, even when I was getting better, 2009, going, okay, well, this is, and plus I hadn't worked for like 7 years because I had been injured, and going back, like all of it was like, it felt like a lot. And I was like, I worked too hard to get better. I'm going to do this. And that's what made me really say, let me really make those changes. And so I think part of it is even just that simple reminder that there were more millionaires created during the Great Depression than any other time in history. When you stop and look at that, you think about it for a moment, and you realize that the power is in you. And one way that I like to look at it is this, is, like when we have the uncertainty, it's about aligning our mind and also taking action, and,
Right.
and so what can happen is kind of like this, is that if you ask some people, just one stream of revenue feels like a lot for them. They're like, I don't even know how to create that, but people who are in alignment with money, they're like, okay, well, I have this stream of revenue, you've probably heard the term all the time, multiple streams of revenue. And the easiest way to think about it is this, is that if you've ever had like a block in your mind where you try to think of something, you go like this, you go, oh God, what was that? I can't remember, or like writer's block or something like that. Like you have this block towards what it is, you can't think of it. But when you're open and you're aligned and you've cleared your blocks, then what happens is you go, I really want to I could do this to make more money. I could do this to make more money. And like ideas start coming and flowing because your mind and your energy is open to it. So there's that. And plus, not only do ideas start coming, but you also start attracting circumstances and situations. And so to me, if somebody's feeling fear, I'm always like, okay, well, that's a good sign that you really want to shift your energy, because in fear, going back to the Great Depression is just a good example, good example or bad example, whatever it is. But everybody who was stuck in fear didn't do well. It's really about getting your mind and energy aligned with where you're wanting to go.
Right. I find in the spiritual type of communities like we run on Beyond the Ordinary show, when we talk about accessing another form of intelligence, of consciousness, and being in relationship with that it gives us a sense. Sometimes we get like those Shakti hits, like something is happening in us, something is shifting, and we can feel an exaltation with that. It's like, it's an exhilaration. It's like, wow, something's shifting inside of me. I may be going through what other people would call ascension symptoms, or I'm having dreams, or guides are showing up, or however they may be unfolding in this very, we'll call it esoteric way. And sometimes those unfoldments can be mistaken as an action taken, and how to actually embody that shift that we're looking for. So I love that you talk about taking action, because that's a very important, it's like, it's prime. You can't create the change without taking the action. But again, I feel sometimes we stop short, or we consider something as an action step, but we don't really see it fully through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's funny. Like, even when I was working on getting better, so I had been injured, you know, on morphine every day for years in extreme pain. And that was my life for years, you know, in and out of hospitals, all of that. And so when I started beginning working on money, I mean, I was in a really bad place. I mean, like my house payment was more than like like you can't own a house in California on your own on disability income. And so my disability was, or my income, it was just, put mildly, it was out of balance. And so and so I was in a really bad place financially. and and when I started working on money and stuff like that, like at the time, and you got to think like 2009, 2010, like this was when like iPods started becoming big, right? And bigger and bigger. And I had like tons of CDs. Like I love music, like music, the sun, the water. Those are like my things that I love so much in life. So I love music. So I had like thousands of CDs and like several thousand. And as I was laying there and I was just like in a bad spot financially, and I had iPods also because I loved music. And so I was like, I put all my music on my iPods and I sold my CDs to a used CD store. I made like a few $1,000s.
Wow.
And yeah, and I could have done that before, but I didn't really have that thought. And so that was a thought that came in, and I just started having like thoughts like, oh, I could do this. And the more I just aligned with it, then I made more money, and it just started unfolding. And then part of what I did is, I mean, then I started, like, as I understood about money and I could feel people's energy and read people's energy, I started helping people make a lot of money. And that became a lucrative job also. And
Right.
so, but yeah, so there was action. And sometimes it's like action that you wouldn't even think of, or even, it's funny because there is one of my coaching clients that I work with, and I helped him become a millionaire for the first time. And and it's funny because what happens is sometimes when people are out of alignment with money, um, then it's like action feels like, oh, okay, well, I have to get myself to do this and I have to get myself to do that. But when we're aligned with what we're wanting and what we're doing, we're like, oh my God, so I get to go do this and I get to go do that. And you feel juiced to do it. And so it's not like action from like, all right, push yourself to do it. It's action from like wanting to do things and wanting to like live fully. And it's a great feeling. It's energy and life force moving through you and living through you.
How do you take people into that life force energy, into that passion and purpose space? Because again, there's a lot of online courses that teach about money, how to get there, how to create wealth, how to create online programs, how to generate. But for me, it doesn't hit that tender spot that's just ready to awaken again, the authenticity of it. Rather than the shoulds, there's an authentic flow that only you can generate. But something has to awaken within that, or perhaps the callus that's blocking the access to that needs to be removed.
Absolutely. And basically, the way I look at it is that it's kind of like if you get in a car and you put one foot on the gas and you put one foot on the brake, and then you wonder why you're stuck. And that's how a lot of people are subconsciously towards money, and that's why they don't notice that much of a difference, is because really our subconscious minds drive our life, because that's where our core energy is. So we have different types of energy: core energy, transmission energy, but our core energy is basically our energy that's with us all of the time. And so like we can, like, thoughts that are deep within our being, that maybe we've had an ongoing pattern of feeling some way, or deeply ingrained beliefs, that makes up our core energy. And so what happens is we're going through life and we might say, well, I want this, but our other foot is on the brake pedal
Mhm.
and we're not going anywhere. And so what I do with people is I help them both put more pressure on the gas pedal to move forward. And then also I check into the specific things, because it's always so different for each person. And so I check into the specific things that's the next thing that they need to release. Like, what is it? And all the time people are like, oh my God, I never would have thought of that. But that's what I do, is I just check into what is that specific thing, and I help them to shift that. And then with the combination of both pushing on the gas and letting go of the brake, they move forward. And
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Well, and I have to give a disclaimer also for anybody. You know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
You know exactly where I'm going. Y'all, I'm telling the special offer, it's you need to work with Brandy. Things will shift and move. If you show up, they will shift and move. But you're going to be challenged. It's going to challenge your emotional state. It's going to challenge those parts of you that don't want things to change, because it's so hard to change. It's so safe in the way that you are. But you also know that you can't stay in that space, the suffering that it causes. And so there's this tugging back and forth, and Brandy will call you out in such a beautiful way, but it could become vulnerable.
As you know what though, as it needs to be, because
I agree.
Ultimately what we're doing is we're taking the vulnerabilities, we're taking the hurts. And so you touched on that a bit ago when you said that, you know, a lot of times that we can have blocks towards money that relate to other areas in life. And sometimes it's wounding or insecurities or not good enough. But a lot of times it's even deeper than that. But it is. So it is vulnerable because it's releasing. It's not just like, oh, okay, yay, I get more money. It's also, I let go of some hurt. I let go of something that's been off in my body that hasn't been right. So it can be vulnerable. And, but that's, I knew you were going there because that's what I do. I like to zero into specifically and what it is specifically and go exactly that to get the results, you know?
Brandy, as far as I'm concerned, those places really don't have a place to hide anymore. It's how much longer can they be perpetuated? And how much longer do we want to be with that when there's another beautiful creation? You have an awareness that something else wants to be created with you, whether that's more money, a better relationship, another house to live in, it's more peace in your life. They're all related. And so when you get to those places, it's, again, with the energies that we're in, how the earth is expanding, all of the signs that are saying that we are becoming more intelligent energetically as humans to access that intelligence, we're going to start seeing those parts of ourselves that perhaps have been in the shadows, not necessarily wanting to come out. And again, this is just a beautiful way of working with someone like Brandy, and specifically with Brandy, to really bring those parts to the light with not just ripping them out, not making it sound that way, but it's really a lot of compassion that comes in. But there's this alchemy that happens when that vulnerability comes up that just allows the process to flow through with so much grace once it's finally touched. And again, to have a facilitator like Brandy guide you through this, it's beautiful because she's capable. She understands where it comes from. She has the compassion and the empathic capacity to guide you. And something that we haven't talked about, Brandy, is also how you connect to an intelligence also, and you're constantly doing this checking back and forth and balancing out. I don't know if you call that connecting to your guides, connecting to an intelligence, whether you're channeling. How would you describe that?
I would, part of what I do is I check into multiple things. I don't actually use guides because they're not the most reliable source. So I just connect with, you call it God or universe, divine source energy. That's where I go for answers ultimately. And then I also check multiple forms. So I also check like the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then I watch how neurons fire. And so because sometimes what'll happen is sometimes it's not triggering at the moment. And so you may not see it at the moment. So that's part of what I do is I'm looking at how the mind is working, how energy is working, what's being created, and then comparing each. So actually that's why, like, if you hear me, as you know, I say bingo all the time. And what that has to do with is it's just specifically feeling what another person's feeling, and then seeing what it needs to be like and what needs to be changed in the mind to be able to shift the core energy to create that shift.
Yeah. And it's fascinating also, Brandy, because we can get into aspects where someone can have $10 in their bank account, or 10,000 or $100 or 100,000 or a million, and all be in a similar place while I don't have enough, and being in fear and waiting for the shoe to drop and all these other things. And it's fascinating. And it can be the opposite also, where someone can be so abundant where they have $10 in their account and they're like, oh my God, I got $10. And so it's, what's the
True.
mindset around that? What do you see is the difference in that, and how can we shift to the abundant aspect of it and steer away from the shadow that's putting us into this place of discontent?
You know, it's the discontent is always something deeper, is always something that is the problem. The source of the problem is the discontent. And it's really about managing what is going on with the mind. You know, it's interesting. Like for example, like a lot of times fear is not really what most people think it is. A lot of times what happens is there's links to some type of problem that are linked up in the mind. And then people go, well, I'm just fearing this. Fear, like maybe you've heard the term before, fear is just false evidence that appears real. And people then try to negate that emotion, but it's an energy. Emotions are energy. And so they have this energy broadcasting out. They're like, well, let me just negate it. And really it's just, it's about shifting it. So I would say that it is different for each person, but something you touched on right there, where you said, you know, there are people who can have millions who then feel a lot of stress around money and finances. And a lot of times when they do, they're on their way down. Like for one reason or another, they're headed in the wrong direction. For example, one woman that I work with, and they actually probably using a man as a different guy is probably an even better example. During the time of 2008, 2009, all of that, he was doing amazing. Like he was making millions and doing awesome. Like I think had like a $200 million year, like was making millions during this time when all of his buddies were losing money. So what happened is he started feeling bad about making money and hiding it and saying, you know, yeah. So the more he was doing that, what ultimately ended up happening is that he ended up losing money year after year after year. He was just depleting, and then ended up just in a really bad place financially. And so when I checked in with his energy, it was like, oh, wow, well, this happened. He was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, let's change this. And literally the next year he made, I want to say 37 million the next year. And then the next year was 100 plus million. So literally shifting his energy and his mindset. So for everybody, it's something different. We're complex human beings, and none of us think exactly alike. But if I was to put it and simplify it, it would just be about making sure to align yourself and your mind to having more money, and that it feels good, and really removing the blocks.
Well, you know, since we're talking about how individuated it can be, and let's go to the white elephant in the room, at least for me right now. We have a special offer, and there's courses that you're teaching on there, and there's other modules that are available. How can someone showing up to these courses and what would seem like a general course, and it's not general with you, what's guided for this particular group and that you're sharing, because there are live modules that you have on there, how's that going to help someone and bring them awareness and attune them to what's possible if it's such an individuated process?
Well, a few ways. I mean, and it's honestly individuated, because everybody just does have different links in the mind, different blocks to different things. And, but, you know, if somebody wasn't even going to do the course, it's really about getting the foot off the brake and getting the foot on the gas. Now, if somebody does come into the course, basically what I do is I specifically do that, is I help, I do group exercises where we do group things together. And then also I check into each person's energy. So then we have a day where we go, okay, let's identify the specific blocks. What are the blocks? And so basically each person, anybody who wants me to read their energy, that's what I check into. Okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. And I help them to identify the specific blocks. And then we work on exercises to actually then release the problem that's up. And so it's awesome.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to ask you this tough question because I want y'all in the audience to really feel what's coming through. What I find with you, Brandy, also, whether it's in individual sessions or in a group, it's like you're also teaching us to attune to the full spectrum of an emotion as it comes up. So earlier I talked about stopping short in a particular emotion or a particular circumstance that we're feeling of what's possible. But if we can attune to what's coming in and allow it to flow through and be in relationship with it, then we're stopping short the possibilities of that happening in the intimacy outside of us as well. So you really stimulate that, you hold the space for it to flow through. And again, there's an intelligence that gets birthed from that.
It is. You know, it's so funny because it was interesting. Like I actually did a class on this right as like a money class, which usually I'm doing because, you know, just with my injury and all of that, I do a lot of health. And then I have my VIP people that I work with a lot of money and business and all of that. And which, and so leading up to like, I think as we were coming up before COVID, I was checking in with universe and guidance. And I was like, says I'm supposed to do a money course. Okay, so I'm going to do this. So literally in like the beginning of April, which was like, what, 2 weeks after the whole COVID lockdown, somewhere in there, like it was right in that period where it just happened. I had planned a money class. So it was starting right then. And what was beautiful is people had just lost their jobs, different things like that going on. And people who had been pre-signed up for the course, we did it. And I mean, there was people that were making thousands of dollars that had never, there was a woman who brought in $8,000, which is huge for her where she had been. So that was like the most money she had brought in at a chunk at a time. There were people who were clearing their blocks and manifesting a new job or having incredible job ideas. They go, oh my God, I'm going to do this and creating that. I had a guy on there who was already making 6 figures and doubled his income during the course of the 4-week class. Just like awesome, right? And so what happened is just it is different for everybody because everybody's in a different place. But it's really about each person getting clear on where they're needing to go at the point where they are and what that next level is for them.
Right. And that can shift depending on where we currently are in our lives. So again, it's not a one shoe fits all, but we get to find what's up for us, what is available for us in that moment. And again, that provides just these amazing choices of doorways that we get to pick from. So it's so wonderful. You know, let's go into the special offer, y'all. April is going to type in the link in the chat box. You can click in the chat box link. I'm repeating myself to get to the special offer page. You can also go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Brandy23, and Brandy ends with a Y. And it'll take you to that same page. And there's a few of y'all with your hands raised. I'm going to go in and make you all panelists. I'm going to ask you to keep your microphone muted, and I'll invite you to unmute whenever I call on you so you can start taking some live questions. And let's see here. April hasn't typed in the link yet, but I will. So I'll send that to you here in a second. Type in excuse me as I'm doing.
I love April.
I know, me too, except I'm not loving it right now. Where are you, April? Actually, I'm typing it, so we'll just be organic here today. There's the link, y'all.
And April just typed it in.
And April just typed it in. So again, I'm going to promote some of y'all as panelists, and I'll ask you to unmute yourself when we're ready to call on you. And Brandy, before we get into the special offer, and as people are still accessing that page, you've also worked with different institutions that have really wanted to study how you are so effectively able to shift belief patterns and action taking mechanisms in the people that you work with. I'd love it if you share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. You know, what I'm most known for in my work is doing exactly that, is taking people with chronic pain or injury, illness. I mean, I've taken people with paralyzed limbs, like even stuck limbs from like MS or different reasons of being paralyzed. And I have helped people to shift their mind. And as they do, as I zero in on the specific things in their mind, the specific energy, specific things in their mind, and as I help them to shift it, it creates radical changes. I mean, that's what I do it back to back to back. And so I have a neuroscience team that's actually looking at wanting to work with me and study what it is that I'm doing. And so that's really great. And it's just, and it's awesome. I mean, like even, you know, just taking people back to back, and even under medical equipment where thermography, I've been able to take people where you can actually see, like, let's say somebody's experiencing neck pain. And so the scan is like all red, and I coach them to use their mind, and you'll literally see real time where the scan will go from red to green as their pain goes away. And so that's a lot of what I'm known for, is I'll take people and just create those radical changes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I have to say, I coach people. They're the ones that are shifting the energy. So in other words, I help them to shift it. I coach them how to use their minds. I have to say, the only reason I'm able to do what I'm able to do is because we are all that freaking amazing. Like, our minds are so much more incredible. And even when I take people, like I'll take people all the time, even on my podcast episodes, like I'll take people all of the time and I work with them, and they shift it. I'm like, you know what? You did that. Like, I coached you, you did it. And it's just because, you know, in other words, I don't want to take full credit for it, because it's really about how freaking amazing we all are, truly.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my own personal experience with you. And I found that the shifts really occurred when I shifted my resistance to what was available. So you held a beautiful space and this genius intelligence of what those blocks, or the energy that I was so invested in, I'll call. And when I was ready to make the shift, that there was smooth transitions, smooth awakenings that were available. And I noticed where I was paying attention and opening to. And then in some areas where I didn't, it's like, oh, that didn't turn out in the way that I saw, but I see why. And then an opening and releasing in that. So it's, even this work has a long-term effect, because again, it awakens this intelligence within us, and we can apply it in so many different ways and facets in our decision-making process and the way that we be on an ongoing basis. So it's not like you learn something once and you apply it to that particular situation and it's gone. No, this becomes alive in you, and it feeds you for the rest of your life and continues to grow.
It is. It's spot on and well said. It's a new way of really being able to see, to understand energy and the mind and how it works with even more clarity.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. It's amazing. So if y'all are on the special offer page, and if you're not, I just so highly recommend that you get on there. But Brandy, lead us through on the page where everyone is going to receive by participating.
All right. So I didn't go to the page. I was busy talking, but I'm going to leave that short because I see there's several people with questions. So as far as the offer, I got to tell you, it's really, really awesome. It's basically, it's 4 classes, 1 hour each. So it's 4-hour class where literally we work on specifically shifting your energy towards money. And as I mentioned earlier, I actually check into each person and help to identify what that specific block is and help to shift it. And we basically, everything is broken down into tools and techniques. So it's full of tools and techniques. We look at blocks, we work on shifting them and really creating the change. And it's very focused, my work, especially because I went through my injury and I was like meditating and sending energy and checking into my chakras and visualizing and doing all these things for years. And I didn't get better and it didn't work. And so that's when I really started looking at the mind at a deeper level and understanding different types of energy and core energy and transmission energy and what I needed to do to get results in my health. And then it was cool because then when I understood what I needed to get results in my health, I started doing that in other areas of my life also after I got better. And so that's what it is. It's basically that. Then there's also modules where videos based, or I'm sorry, audios that are mind activators that help activate parts of your mind that you can listen to just help your mind go along with the process. As John was mentioning, sometimes there's some resistance to change. Even though it's exciting change, we can have some deeper levels of resistance. And so I added in some MP3s that can help you to really embrace the change, awakening and deserving. So we take care of the deserving and the awakening part of expanding your mind. And so there's multiple things there. So anyway, if you're interested in joining me, definitely just go to the page and check it out. It's all there. So let's get on.
Y'all need to join Brandy. I'm telling you, it's 4 1-hour live calls, and you talk about healthy ways to energetically align, because there's unhealthy ways. And I can tell you one of the unhealthy ways that I see over and over again is it's through judgment. So I could have been in a judgment place of where I was resisting, but I also understand that my resistance is also created through the chemistry that runs through my limbic system that's been formed for a very long time, and that there's a rewiring process that can happen as well. And so our body goes through a reset also. And if we don't give credence to that and to the neural pathways that were formed and how we can reform new neural pathways in a very intelligent and graceful way, then we're not talking about the full process. We're judging our capacity to be in something when we're not necessarily wired to be in that. And so Brandy's awareness of how to bring in this intelligence and this chemistry and to use it for your maximum benefit, it's amazing. Her understanding of this process, for me, it's holistic. It's mind, body, and spirit all connected in one. And when you do that, it's like you're hitting home runs over and over again. So again, 4-hour live courses, y'all. And then the bonuses, Access Awakening and Deserving Activator. And for me, Brandy, the Deserving Activator, that's like the basis. That's like foundation. If we don't think that we deserve something, we can't get into actually receiving it.
Exactly. So that's why it's foundational to just take care of the easier stuff. The foundational stuff is through the MP3s. Absolutely. I want people to get results.
Yeah, the stress release and empowerment activator, the power installation activator. These are all huge. And Brandy, what I'm finding, what's coming up for me very strongly, personally and collectively, what I feel is that we are hitting thresholds of our capacity to receive. And that's part of the deserving aspect also, how much we think we can contain. And really the energy is aligning for us to bring in prosperity in ways that we've never imagined before. Even amidst of everything that's happening, this reset is actually bringing that forward.
Spot on. And not only that, it's bringing that forward, and it's also creating a little bit of energy that we're needing to overcome, more so than when we see other people that are going through things, or we're hearing stress, or we're hearing all of that. Like, so it's both opening opportunity, and there's also an extra layer of stuff we've got to really
100%.
plow through. Absolutely.
Yeah. I am certainly experiencing that, and it's so beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
A lot of people are. So
Y'all take advantage of the special offer. You know how to get there. The link's in the chat box. You can type in your web browser, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Brandy23. It's $147. There's a 2-payment option as well. And again, I cannot recommend Brandy highly enough. Words just aren't adequate. Be in there. There's a couple of testimonials in the chat box also about Brandy's work. So feel into that. And again, I highly recommend it. And with that, y'all, let's get into some Q&A. So Brandy, if you're open, I want us to take our first live caller. And Wanda, I'd love for you to unmute your microphone and please ask Brandy your question.
Hello.
Hello, Wanda.
Hang on one second. Do I have echo?
You do.
Hang on one sec.
You sound like Morgan Freeman in a God movie.
Okay, I think I got the echo taken care of.
I don't know that you have the depth that Morgan Freeman has.
Oh, great to see you, and hello to you, John. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so definitely want to be quick. You've got so many people waiting. So as you know, been doing an incredible amount of work, been working with you. So with the theme of the session being about money, with what I have been working on, that is definitely my prime focus. And I'm not stopping until it's done, period, end of story. After that, money is something, and I agree with John mentioned it earlier, that money is about, it's just another relationship. So I definitely understand where I'm at right now financially, in connection with what I am clearing. So after I do the work with what I'm clearing at the moment, honestly and truthfully, genuinely and authentically, I'm really wanting to become wealthy for many, many reasons. And I just want to know, am I on track for that, or what blocks are there after what I'm working on now?
What blocks are there after what you're working on now? So, bingo. Give me 1 second. Bingo. Bingo. One would be first and foremost to recognize your success. Okay.
Yay, okay.
So if you think about it,
Yeah.
okay, so I do think, okay, so a few things. I think that working on money specifically would be great. Also, I think that recognizing your success and being able to take that in would be really great as well. So think about this for a moment. You were even unable to get any type of job or anything for over 5 years. And you went from that to then buying or getting a job, getting raises, getting promotions, owning your own house in like what, a year and a half time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I would say first and foremost, make sure to stop and take that in for a moment. We get addicted to that. And then I would say that that came from shifting your health and shifting where you were and all that. And I would say that right now, the next place to be would be specifically to work on money. And that's what I would say, that your next thing to do, because I know that spawned from health and where you were and stuck and all of that. That was the side effect of working on your health that then came through with that.
True. That's true. Yes.
So great job with your health and all that. But that's what I would do, is I would really look at working on, bingo, on working with money, bingo. And if I were to look at one of the main blocks, one of the blocks has to do with a feeling like I'm never going to be fully loved. So I would work even more with love and money.
Wow.
Is going to be, okay. So notice that hits home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the block that I would work on. There's some other things there, but I would take that in. And then if I were you, because we've never really focused specifically on money itself.
Haven't. Yeah.
I would spend time and actually give yourself that gift. That's my best suggestion.
Thank you.
And make sure to acknowledge yourself. You've come so far.
I know. I have a bad habit of not doing that.
You know, Wanda, I'm going to keep you on as I ask this next question, because maybe there's some feedback in this. Brandy, when is it detrimental to always keep looking for the blocks?
Bingo.
Good
To
question.
me, when is it detrimental? It's only detrimental to keep looking for the blocks if you're not doing it in balance. It's kind of, bingo. So if you're doing it in balance, where I said like with the class, where we put in more gas pedal energy and we also remove the blocks. When you're doing it in balance, it feels so good. It feels like if you're doing it and you're feeling and you're lifting also. So when I say gas pedal, brake pedal, it's all about lifting and releasing. And so if you are only focused on releasing, then so it's funny that you keep her on for this question, because
I knew what I was doing.
in the last, I have health classes as well, and so on Mondays, I'm going to call you out a little bit with love.
You're fine. You're fine.
On Monday's class, that's what she's like. Well, what do I need to do next? I said, honey, you're just working on release. Where's the lift? You're missing the lift. And so we just had this exact conversation. So what happens is when you have that vision and you also are doing things to specifically lift your energy, and you're good at lifting your energy and you know how to do it, and you know how to lift your core energy, and you're doing that, then what happens is releasing feels so freaking good. But what a lot of people want to do all of the time, this happens, they want to go, where's my block? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Where's my block? What's wrong with me? That is not healthy. And that it becomes a problem. And so it's really understanding not only that, but I would say another problem is a lot of people don't really know how to fully release their blocks. And so all of the time I'll have people who come into a class and they've been working on the same childhood pattern since 30 years, 20 years. And so it never feels that relieving feeling because they never actually release it. Instead, they kind of go into it, they think about it, they mull it over, they try to, work with it, but they don't really get rid of it. And so if you're not working with them efficiently, it just feels heavy and you feel stuck. If you're working with too many in a not proper balance, it doesn't feel right either. But if you're working on it with balance, the best way to think about it is this. Is it when you take a walk, when you go to walk, you take a step forward, you release the past with your back foot and you take a step forward. Next foot, next foot, next foot. It's always about releasing old ground, taking new ground, releasing old ground, taking new ground. And when you have a flow to it, you're releasing, you're grabbing, you're releasing, you're grabbing. It's fun, it's motivating, it's exhilarating. It's high energy. I do it all the time. Okay. And still to this day, I'm always like, okay, what's my next growth? What's my next block? Let's go. And so when you're doing it in great balance, it feels incredible. If you're not, it feels heavy and it doesn't feel great. So yeah, that's the answer on that.
Yeah. Wanda, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Brandy, and it's that balance part that I feel creates the awe in our life, because if we're accelerating all the time, it could be flighty, and that exhilaration can't really be maintained on a consistent basis. It starts to get out of balance. And again, in the past, there's the heaviness of that, but that state of awe, because then you're in this state of wonder, and it's like playing with this beautiful puzzle of what this life has to offer, and the awe and the excitement of finding a little bit of that piece of the puzzle that wasn't there before, and then putting it in this other place and building from there. It's wonderful. So I love the way that you explained that.
Awesome. The only other catch is that I have people, I've taken people who have been extremely, they're tired all the time. They feel sluggish all the time. Then we put their energy in alignment. And even one of my VIP people that I work with right now, he's like, I stayed up till 4 o'clock last night. Yeah, he's like, when he used to have a hard time staying up past 9 o'clock. And he's like, I didn't even want to go to bed. And I'm like, I know that feeling. And it's like, you have to kind of put yourself to bed because you have so much energy. So the other place that runs into is that sometimes then people will stop sleeping because they feel so energized. I'm like, no, you still have to sleep. We're amazing beings and you still have to sleep. So,
I've gone through bouts of that where I was only sleeping 3 hours a day and fully functioning. It's it's so good, but then it crashes after a while.
Yeah. So that's the only other crash that happens. So then you go, okay, I know where this goes, and me too.
Fantastic. All right, let's go to another caller. Jenny, let's go to you yourself. Jenny G.
Hi, thank you, Brandy. Thank you, John. I actually took Brandy's course a couple of years ago, but I don't think I was in a place to fully receive that. And I did have, besides my real question, are the modules and things that I have, would those be helpful to do, or have you changed it up much from your original?
A couple years ago,
yeah.
I would say that I've changed it. Plus, did you do a course on money?
No, it was just on healing. Yeah.
So on healing, yes, the healing one has changed. And this one, as far as the money course, it's live. So the recordings that are with it, the modules that are all MP3. Other than that, this one is fully live. So it's actually on Zoom.
Cool.
So yeah. So yeah.
My question is, I've done a lot of work and have come, I think, very far from 2 years ago, but I've also been unemployed, and I was wondering if you could help me. Let me know what blocks are keeping me from getting a job. Um, and making sure that I'm clear about where I want to go and what I want to do. That would be great.
Give me 1 second. Bingo. Okay, so there's a lot of information that comes up. The first and foremost, that bingo. Bingo. If I ask you how well you feel like in your last job you connected with people, coworkers, people in general, if I ask you how that was for you.
It didn't go very well, and I had a big chip on my shoulder. I was working with someone that I had worked with before who valued my work, and that was the reason he hired me.
Okay.
But as far as connecting with my team, it didn't go well at all.
Okay, so that's actually what I see. That's the first thing that came up. So I asked about working again, and it's basically said ow and painful and people. So that's what came up was that. And so so I would start to clear that, bingo, and that lifts the energy of wanting to have a job. But that's what comes up for you. Okay, so that's the first thing that I would really target and heal. Okay.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're so welcome.
Thank you, Jen. All right, let's go to another caller now. Let's go to Barbara. Barbara, if you can unmute, please.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm fabulous as well. With
Barbara's
a little bit
awesome.
of a question.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so long story short, in April, my husband passed away, leaving me with 2 houses and all the financial things that I didn't know how to do. And since then, I've gotten insurance money, sold one of the homes, and I have money in the bank, but I still can't relax over the fact that I guess that I've come this far or figured it out.
Bingo. Yes. Okay. So you still have a feeling of scared towards money, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And basically what it is it's saying that you need to look at the big picture. So you want to pace yourself. So notice, like if you look at the rate that you were spending and have been spending, if you continue to spend at this rate, where will you be in 10 years from now? Where will you be in 15 years from now? And how will that feel to you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it wants to do, is it wants to have you look at the big picture and
Mm-hmm.
see what you want it to look like and make a bigger plan. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So bingo. That, bingo. It says complete. That's what it would like for you to do. And you know, kind of circling back, you know how John was saying in the very beginning, like as far as taxes, like he even had the money in the bank, but he didn't really want to like look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the part of you that doesn't really want to look at this part?
Yes. I never did it before. It was never my thing. I turned it all over to my husband. Yep.
Exactly. So even when I say this, your energy is like, yeah, no, don't want to do that. So if you're not wanting to, also yeah, I would strongly recommend kind of breaking through that. One way to break through that is even just to start getting a vision of where you want to go. But there's also, bingo. It would also be really good for you to get used to money. And what I say about that is really to get more comfortable with it. Have you ever heard before that most people who win the lottery end up broke within, I think it's a few years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So basically, if you not think about it, obviously your husband dying is not winning the lottery. I have absolute compassion, and I feel you. And by the way, your healing on that is beautiful. So I feel you're in a really, really impressive.
I worked with you around that time.
I know, but I wasn't going to say it last studio. I'm really good. I work with like celebrities also and stuff like that. So I'm always really good with confidentiality, but yeah, I love that you embodied that healing, by the way. You just feel just awesome. And so I don't want to say it like, yeah, so just beautiful. And point being is that you taking in a lot of money, you're going to want to get used to it, because if you think about the lottery, even though it's the lottery, if a lot of money comes in and you don't structure your beliefs and comfortable and create new ways of dealing and positive habits with money, likely it won't go well. And so you're going to want to, instead of avoid it and have avoidance and think, well, I'm fine. Most people are all good at being fine until they're not fine. And then that's when they want to go become fine. And it's a lot harder to become fine when you're not fine than when you are fine. And then you just handle it. So that's my biggest recommendation. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbara,
You're so
thank
welcome. And you're so beautiful. So beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks. It's wonderful to see you again. You're wonderful. Just want everybody to know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, Brandy is, absolutely. What comes up for me also in reference to what's the energy that you're sharing also, Barbara, and again, it's this place of attunement that I talked about before, Brandy, is that we'll get to a certain point and something that we're uncomfortable with, and we take the first step, and it feels so good accomplishing that first step that we stop. It's like, okay, I did it. But there's other things to do. There's other action taken that really wants to support us, but we got just breaking past that first threshold of difficulty. Sometimes we just want to rest her so long that we forget the momentum, and to build the momentum back up to take the next step, it's like another pull. But really it's such a gift, because we're really breaking through the layers that are setting us free from the paradigm that we held on to for so long. So again, that attunement process, I think it's a big thing. And just having the awareness that, okay, we broke through this and I'm resting here kinda. But Barbara, somehow I get the feeling that you know that there's other things you need to do, but you're going, I'll kind of wait. Maybe I'll do it afterwards. Maybe someone else will take care of it for me. And for everybody on the call, y'all already know. I don't think it's a revelation that Brandy or I or any psychic or intuitive come on and there's something waiting for you. You already know.
And I have to say, I have to give Barbara props. We literally did a session, and from that session, she really just embodied it. Was like, okay, we did a session, and she was like, all right, let me just embody this information. Just beautiful. And,
I'm not
totally. I know you're not at all. I just
playing that first step, because that first step is huge. It's
totally.
like, yeah.
This is the thing, is I know that I'm half of the equation, and I always like to give credit where credit is due. And I think it's all about creating an awesome team, and
I love that
doing
about
that.
you.
So
Barbara, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to another caller now. Let's go to Corey. Why don't you unmute your microphone, please?
Thanks.
Welcome.
Hello. How's it going?
Hey, love. How are you?
Doing fabulous. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thriving. So doing really well. So my question for you is this. What I've noticed is, like, when I have like a specific goal, like I'm like, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year, $10,000 a month, whatever. I notice like there's kind of like a stress, or like if I'm focusing on my goal, it's kind of like, I don't know, things don't work out for me. But then I notice what I've been doing lately is I've just been focusing on just, feeling happy and just feeling good and grateful, and I'm really just like following my highest, like, joy and my bliss and stuff. And I noticed I just made like $20,000 in the past 2-3 months, compared to like last year I made, 30,000. So it's like, what's the importance of actually having like a specific like number, or is there, or is it important?
Bingo. Give me 1 second. Mm, 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 that.
I love it when Brandy does this. I'm just fascinated. I'm waiting for the answer.
Okay,
Sure.
so bingo. That. There's a couple things. Okay, so first and foremost, it goes back to acknowledging yourself. Okay.
Okay.
So if you think about it for a moment, you remember when you were just trying to make $1,000 a month, right?
Right.
And now making $10,000 a month, right?
Right.
Okay, so first and foremost, acknowledging yourself, bingo. And it's part of it, like, bingo. If I ask you how hard you have been in the past on yourself, how much have you been hard on yourself?
Like like when, what do you mean, the past?
Bingo. Give me 1 second. That.
Okay.
Bingo. Okay, so first and foremost, okay, so I want you to acknowledge, okay, so first and foremost, going from trying to just get $1,000 a month to literally $10,000+ a month, acknowledge that, bingo. So give me 1 second. That, bingo. That. I'm trying to be gentle in my delivery because there's a sensitive spot here. Like we talked about earlier, sometimes it goes to the sensitive spot. And so the sensitive, soft way to say it, notice how, okay, so there was a woman earlier, just beautiful and great self-awareness. And she mentioned that as she was feeling really good, she got a little bit of a chip on her shoulder, right?
Okay. Right.
And that things didn't go so well from that. Okay.
Right.
So a few things. Okay. So what's happening is that there's a bounce between either feeling not good enough or feeling like you have a chip on your shoulder. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So what happens is when we then have a chip on our shoulder and then things start to go off a little bit, then we start to go back down in income, then we feel not good enough. And so that's why when you just when you're focusing on just feeling happy, you're doing better, is because you're just focusing on feeling happy and it's not so much the chip. Now, ultimately what you'll want to do to make it to the next level is both focus on the vision that you do want, but doing it without the chip is what will help you. So to your initial question is how important is the amount that you want. Being fixated and focused on where you want to go is key, but from a different energy. So notice, watch this, is if I said I'm focused on where I want to go, but by the way, it doesn't feel that great. And if I just focus on being happy, it seems to go better. Well, yes, but if I could be happy and focused on where I want to go, that's on the money, right? And so that's what's missing from that combination. So that's part of it. And then there's a deeper feeling of not good enough that you're also going to want to work on as well. Okay,
Right.
so there's some other, yeah, so that's bingo. So that's key. But yeah, but to your question, the vision needs to feel good. And if it doesn't, then you want to modify it instead of not having a vision. So notice you're making $10,000 a month less than you were last year, or $10,000 less than you were last year when you look at the cumulative amount. When you said 30 last year and then 20 this year?
No. I made $20,000 in the last like 4 months. I already made more than what I made last year.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So, bingo. So just that. So having your vision, but having it feel good. Like if I told you I have a vision towards something and it feels stressful and it doesn't feel very good.
Right.
Part of it's coming from the way to say it would be the chip, so to speak. And so seeing how you can do both. Okay.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. You're amazing.
I appreciate it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just giving love. That's all.
Oh, don't hold back love. We're all open to receiving love.
I mean, I'm open to love.
Oh, well, and here we go. No, I'm just kidding. I got plenty
adore
of love
you.
in this heart.
Thanks a lot. Brandy, what comes up for me, part of the energetics of this conversation, there's also comparative energy where we compare ourselves to other people and deem our self-worth based on a figure that we've tied comparing to someone else or comparing to how life is supposed to be because we see someone else experiencing joy at that particular barometer. Where does that come in the energetics for us around money?
Experiencing joy around a certain barometer amount. Bingo. I mean, honestly, it's so many areas. I mean, it really depends on external stressors. It also depends on patterns. So, in other words, for example, some people have felt like, let's say that at age 6, they got this belief that said, I'm a man and I'm supposed to make enough money to be good enough to have a woman. And then they feel like at that point, oh, I'm not good enough. Then what happens is then they can be, making $1 million a year and they still feel like, well, I don't have the because that pattern's so strong that I don't have the level of house. I only have a 4-bedroom house and I need to have the 10-bedroom house. And
Right.
what happens is it's really about the other patterns that are going on as well. And so where, like you've heard before, we've all heard the saying before, money doesn't buy happiness. And it's so true. But what happens is that as we're making more money, we want to keep clearing the other patterns. So then we have a pattern, of not feeling good enough. Okay, we want to clear that too, or of it not being blah, blah, blah. So money isn't the cure all. Of course, it makes it a lot easier to enjoy money and enjoy life because you're not so stressed, potentially. And it's
Right.
also about what are those other patterns. So
Well,
just like, go ahead.
it brings in this aspect of the balance that you were talking about earlier, right? It's bringing those aspects into balance. It's like, okay, there's a threshold and we get there and we can balance different things out with that other facilitation that perhaps makes it easier.
Yes. And I mean, this is what's interesting is that I hate to say this, but going back to everybody's different.
Yeah.
I have worked with people who were multimillionaires who still felt they didn't have enough money to be able to, they weren't good enough.
Mhm.
And the real problem wasn't the lack of money. The real problem was that they had had a pattern of not good enough. And so when they had both the money and then feeling good enough, it was an awesome combination.
Right.
Then I've worked with other people before where they hit a certain threshold of money that they felt like it was wrong for them to make any more money. So then they almost went into a depression because then they were making great money and then they felt like other people weren't, then they felt bad. And then they went into like this depression of undeserving. And so, as much as I hate to say it, all of our minds are different. And so whereas the person could be happy, then they're not because of such and such. And so it really just depends on every person's circumstances and specific situation.
Well, and I think it's also finding that part within ourselves that's in the struggle, regardless of the external circumstances, but it's that struggle, that impetus that something's not right or has us in a limitation, if you will, that wants to waken up again, that intelligence within us of getting into that place of balance and abundance in lots of different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just, the more patterns we clear, the better we feel. It's just, yeah.
It's that simple. Absolutely. Well, y'all, I'm going to take some more Q&A, but I want to invite y'all back to the special offer with Brandy. Again, the 4 live modules with Brandy. Amazing. Are you going to do some of the one-on-one questions like we're doing right now also as part of your calls?
Oh yeah. That's what I do is I check their energy and then we specifically we'll do, okay, look, here's this, okay, now let's go into the release techniques. This is how we're going to release it. And then, so it's not just the information piece. It's also like, okay, this is how we need to get rid of it. Yeah. And so, yeah.
It's very experiential. So y'all take advantage of it again. 4 live courses with Brandy. Then we've got the bonuses. Again, Access, Awakening, and Deserving Activator. The Power Installation Activator. I love that you call them activators. Stress Release and Empowerment Activator. And you get to get on with Brandy with Q&A and going into your specific energetics and really working from an experiential standpoint to help you embody. So it goes beyond just the linear thinking and intellectualizing it into this blossoming within you, which is so wonderful. Again, you can get there by clicking on the link in the chat box, and I know I'm sure she's already done it. If not, it'll get there again, or by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Brandy23. And let's go to our next live caller, Brandy. Jane, let's get you to join us today. If you can unmute, please.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
Hi.
wonderful. Great to have you on here.
Thanks for let me talk to you. Brandy, I think I'm one of those people that has cleared stuff, but it hasn't really gone away. And I was wondering if you could confirm that. I was trying to clear, it was suggested that I had taken a vow of no prosperity
Like vow of
in a
poverty?
past life.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, I was trying to clear that on my own. I was wondering if you could tell me if it's possible that I actually cleared that.
Okay, so in and of itself, there's never, like, a vow of poverty is never going to be something that's stuck. So,
All right.
so that's, but I'm going to look into the energy around what you're saying, and we'll fine tune that specific information a bit more. So give me 1 second. Yes. Yes. Bingo. The energy around that specific one, are you familiar? There's this feeling that comes from your younger self. Bingo. It's a feeling of feeling like people who have money are bad. Are you familiar with that feeling?
It kind of rings a bell, yeah.
Okay, so bingo.
I think that might be something my mother, I don't know where it would have come from, but yeah.
That. Give me 1 second. That.
I think I felt kind of bad for those that had less than my family had.
Bingo.
And there was quite a bit of guilt around that others were denied that kind of life or
Bingo.
comfort.
Yes, and so the other thing that comes around that is there's a feeling of feeling like it's righteous to have less. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so bingo, that, bingo. Okay, so I got to be honest. There's layers there. There's also a strong feeling of feeling like I can't do it. Are you familiar with that feeling?
Probably, yeah. Sure.
Okay. So, bingo. Bingo. Give me 1 second. The best thing to give you would be that. Yes. Bingo. If I ask you how much you felt, kind of just, bingo. What's a good way to put it? Let's do this. Bingo. Yes. So if you could close your eyes for a moment, and if you really, really knew, 100% sure, you really, really knew that you could actually make money and actually really have money, really, really, really have it, how would you feel right now?
I guess I would feel great. I would feel more safe is the word that comes up. I would feel more comfortable.
Exactly. So can you see the part of you that's not actually that motivated to have more money, though you'd like to feel more safe, but it doesn't motivate you hugely?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's part of the thing. And so being at peace with, okay, so watch this. So Um,
I actually see that. Yeah,
there you go.
that's amazing. Yes, I see that. I know that. I know that's true. And
Okay.
it's an attitude I have
There you go. There you go. It's an attitude. Yes.
toward money.
But the reason it's there is because there's blocks. So you'll have to feel different. It's kind of like if I asked you how much you'd love to have a flat tire. How much would you love to have? So part of it is actually wanting to change your energy just towards money in general. So that, like, if I ask you how much you'd love to take a new spiritual class, what's your level?
About a 10.5.
10.5. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
I ask you how much you'd really, really want to have more money, what's your level of feeling excitement?
About a 5.
Yeah, I would have said 2, but we'll go with your 5. So there's got to be some deeper programming with it. So that, you know how I talked about releasing the blocks and also gas pedal energy?
Yeah.
You need some more gas pedal energy, honey, and you also need to get rid of some of the blocks. So we need both. Okay, so that's what I would do, is really start at least
I
bringing
really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Jane, I'm about to give you a really special gift.
Oh,
Brandy, do you have a song for Jane?
oh no.
And before Brandy comes up with one, Brandy used to share songs with me. They're like energetic alignments. It's like inviting in that which I was hoping to pull in.
that, bingo. But this is the issue. Jane, if I ask you how much you can find the feeling of feeling like people don't like people with money, how much you can find that feeling? You're laughing.
You're feeling something. I don't know. I'm thinking, I think it's, yeah, well, I actually know very few people with money.
Okay.
But
And what do those people think about people with money? Do they like them or not like them?
I don't think it's, I suppose they probably have a attitude.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so the thing of it is, okay, imagine for a moment. So when John said inviting for a song, I'll do that for programming, but the problem is with you. So imagine for a moment if I was bringing in like a song to help me bring in a cell phone. And I was like, by the way, if I have a cell phone, people are going to have attitude towards me. Do I really? It's like holding the football and feeling like I'm going to get. So there's more
I
to
understand.
it. So
Yeah.
So what I would bingo. So let me think if there's a quick workaround. Let me see, because bingo. That. Well, universe isn't giving me one. I would really say change your energy towards it. You'd have to change that first. I would say that John, you put me on the spot.
I'm so sorry.
No.
But this is wonderful also, because this takes me to the example of the lottery winners. And if you can't hold the vibration of holding on to the money once you have the windfall, then what's the point of winning it over and over and over again?
It's not like if I ask you, Jane has a big heart. Would you agree with that statement, Jane?
I hope so.
Yeah. So I don't see it coming, because she would need to feel like it was acceptable from others too. There's a part of her that doesn't like to be disliked. So I would say that one that you could do, there's a song, and I think it's by Bruno Mars, and I think it's like love, it's about loving me just the way I am. And you could bring that song in, and you could think about having money and being okay with that. So that's the workaround.
All
So
right.
so that's
I'll look
one.
for it.
But you're right in that you have some deep lifelong patterns, past life patterns and stuff with money that you're gonna want to clear to make that change. But if I were you, where I'd really start would actually be changing the way that you see money, so that you really actually want it. So
Wonderful. Another reason I
Thank
wanted
you.
a song to come in, and Jane, it's an invitation for you. I feel that your body wants to move, and dancing would be so wonderful to get it flowing in another direction. So the song that you actually chose, Brandy, really goes in alignment with what I was seeing. It's like awakening and like moving that energy and allowing something perhaps unknown to flow in unexpectedly.
Thank you.
Yeah, dance, 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 dance. Beautiful. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Y'all, we can keep going on and on with Brandy, and she won't stop. It just flows. I spent hours with Brandy and felt like 15 minutes, and that's what this call feels like.
oh my God, our first lunch, when he came out and we actually met in person for the first time, it was like we were sitting there and what was it? The vegan place.
I was there last
At
week.
Cafe Gratitude. Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. We were at Cafe Gratitude, and we were I think we had like a 4-hour dinner or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hours, and we were like, "Oh my God, is it really this late?" Yeah. So.
Yeah, amazing energy. Y'all take the course and immerse in that energy. It's going to fly. It will not feel like you're showing up to a course. It will feel like you're just showing up to this flow of energy that's just, you've been ready to inhale. And again, I can't speak enough of Brandy's work and the impact it's had on my life. And I highly recommend it to all of y'all. So it's in the chat box. Click on that link. Go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Brandy23. It'll take you to that same offer as well. It's $147, a 2-payment option, and 100% amazing Brandy. So again, I hope y'all go there and go on that journey and really awaken that within you. And then we're going to run the replay of tonight's call the rest of the week. We'll have the Zoom link up a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. And Brandy, as a final note, is there anything that you can give to the group as a whole right now in regards to the access we have into a flow that perhaps we haven't given ourselves permission to access?
Access. You know, bingo. You know, really what comes through is this, is it's a message of empowerment. It's saying, you know, embrace change. Embrace change. Like, are you really willing to change? You know, if you think about it, I shared in my injury, going through my injury, I was doing the steps, I was meditating, I was sending energy, I was sending white light, I was picturing myself healed, I was doing those things. But ultimately what it came down to is creating real changes, really feeling different. And when we really feel differently at our core, that's when it changes our core energy. And so for anybody who has been feeling like you haven't been able to get the results that you want, that you've been trying, that you've been putting forth effort, that you're working on it, the thing that you'll want to know is that real change is where you really want to focus on. Is it asking yourself and even embodying that and saying, am I willing to change? Because I know for me, I doubted the mind, if it would even work, if it could work. And like, I didn't feel like my life was changing. I didn't feel like, I still felt heavy. I still felt like I wasn't getting the results. And so I think that all too often I see people who are going through the steps and going through the steps and wanting change, but not really arriving at the change that they're really wanting. And so I think the biggest thing that I can just emphasize is that that change comes from within you. And it does. And so being willing to change, even if you think about it, John even mentioned sometimes that, like when we were working on something, that when he stopped resisting the change, that he noticed a huge shift. And so, so I think that the biggest gift that I can remind you of, because I see the most incredible changes all the time with health, with life, with money, with all kinds of things. And that change and the magic occurs and the change occurs and the shift occurs when you're really willing to embrace the change. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we as human beings, as spiritual beings, can become afraid of change, or we can become so attached to the old that we don't change. And so it may sound simple to you, but it's pivotal if you continue.
Bring it on, lady. Bring it on.
Y'all bring it on. That's the
Bring it
challenge
on.
in the universe. Amazing. Everybody, bring it on. Y'all, thank you so much for being on here and just sharing your your essence and your love and your bravery and willing to expand and grow and just step into what else is being invited for you. It's amazing to be here with all of y'all. And Brandy, thank you.
Absolutely. It has been.
Your love is amazing.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Likewise, John. I just freaking adore you so much, and you're so sweet, and it's just been a pleasure.
All right. Thank y'all. Namaste, y'all. See y'all in the next call. Bye-bye.